If you're anything like me, then there's one voice that never seems to rest: our inner critic. You know the one. It's the one that compares, judges, and measures you up against everyone else. It whispers you should be doing more, achieving more, being more. And every time you listen to it, your happiness feels just a little bit further away. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's a habit that robs us of our peace. But compassion, especially self compassion, is what restores it. When we learn to respond to ourselves with the same kindness that we offer a friend, then we don't just feel better. We become better equipped to grow, connect, and thrive. You're listening to The Happiness Hack with Tim Coulson, the podcast where we take a little bit of positive psychology, a little bit of strength based healing, mix it all together, and come away with real world applications so that we can grow forwards. We can learn to be more happy, resilient, and better equipped to thrive in our everyday lives. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is close to home for most of us. It's the inner critic. We want to learn to stop comparing and start caring for ourselves, to treat ourselves with compassion rather than comparison. We live in a world that is constantly inviting us to compare. Social media shows us the highlight reel of other people's lives. It's always curated to show our best foot forward. Workplace culture rewards productivity over being truly present. Even self improvement has quietly become a competition. Comparison often begins with something small: a comment, a conversation, and before we realize it, we've measured ourselves up and decided our worth based on someone else's story. The problem isn't admiration or aspiration. Both of these are really good for us. But it's when comparison turns inwards and we become a weapon of self criticism. When we know that we've done something wrong and someone points it out in a very compassionate way, we often snap and go, I know exactly what is happening. Instead of inspiring us, it drains us. It says that you're better than this, they're better than you. And the result is a deep sense of inadequacy that no amount of achievement can fix. We start to dismiss what we're doing well and focus on what we haven't done well. From an evolutionary perspective, comparison once helped us to survive. Our brains are wired to assess instantly where we stand in the social hierarchy, whether this is a threat, a friend, a foe. But in the modern world, that exact same mechanism starts to backfire. We no longer can tell if we're safe. We're always about comparison. We're comparing appearance, success, happiness. And every time we find ourselves lacking, the brain's threat system lights up. It releases cortisol and adrenaline, the same chemicals that we feel when we face real danger. That's why when you're scrolling on social media, you can often feel anxious, tense, or flat. Your nervous system reads that comparison as a form of threat. It's your body's way of telling you, I don't feel safe here anymore. Psychologically, you've entered the state of being unsafe. Dr. Kristen Neff, one of the leading researchers on self compassion, defines it as treating yourself with the same warmth and understanding that you would offer a friend when they're struggling. When we think about it this way, self compassion is not self pity, it's not self indulgence, or it's not even weakness. It's actually emotional resilience in action. Self compassion has three main elements, the first of which is a little bit of self kindness, being understanding and gentle with yourself instead of being harshly critical. Self kindness takes away that little bit of a barrier. Instead of going, I needed to do this better, you can say, I did this pretty well. It's a subtle but powerful shift. The second element in self compassion is common humanity. Whether we like it or not, suffering and imperfection are part of the human experience. You are not alone in your struggles. Everybody has something that they would like to do a little bit better. So, this is where the final element comes in: mindfulness, a balanced awareness of your thoughts and feelings, stopping yourself from over identifying with them. When you bring all of these three elements together, self kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness, something powerful happens. You start to interrupt that cycle of self judgment. You create the space to respond to pain with care instead of criticism. And this is the space where happiness, healing, and resilience begin to grow. Because comparison says you are not enough, while using compassion says you're doing your best right now. Comparison isolates us. It puts us in competition with the world, or even worse, in competition with ourselves. Compassion connects us. It reminds us that everyone is on a journey. Each of us have our own challenges. When we live with a little bit of compassion instead of comparison, happiness is achievable. When we're comparing, happiness is always somewhere else. It's in someone else's achievement, it's in someone else's perfect body or their success story. But when you live with compassion, happiness becomes accessible in your own imperfect but authentic life. Self compassion doesn't mean you get to be complacent. In fact, research shows it's more likely to improve your motivation and performance because people who practice self compassion are more likely to take responsibility for their mistakes and then make meaningful change because their fear of judgment no longer has power over them. When you stop shaming yourself into growth, you free up the energy to actually grow. So, here's some practical ways to bring a little bit of self compassion into your everyday life. Start to notice your inner critic. Tune into that dialogue. When you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? If the language is harsh or absolute, such as, I messed this up or I'm useless, pause and replace it with something more supportive, such as, man, this is really hard, but I'm learning and I'm getting better. Name the inner critic. Give it an identity because this helps you create distance from it. You might say, ah, here's the perfectionist self showing up again, or this is my comparison trap talking. The more you can name those feelings, it helps you to recognize that they are just thoughts, they're not facts. Remind yourself that imperfection is part of being human. We all struggle. We all have failures. One of my favorite stories is about Thomas Edison. He failed to make the filament for the light bulb 9,000 times. But when someone asked him, how come you could make so many failures? He replied with, I never failed once. All I learned was 9,000 things that weren't right. That's huge because that reshapes the entire struggle. You are not broken. You're part of the human connection. Offer yourself these kind words or gestures. Place a hand over your heart. Take in a slow breath. Repeat those mantras. I am kind to myself in this moment. Or I am enough as I am. These small gestures help signal safety to your nervous system and they start to rewire your brain. Because the more that you can limit your comparison triggers and be intentional with how you're interacting with your environment, you're going to curate boundaries that uplift you rather than drain you. Self compassion starts to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. If you've been listening along, then you would have learned that a couple of weeks ago, the parasympathetic nervous system is the body's rest and repair mode. This is when we lower our cortisol, increase the oxytocin, and promote our emotional stability. From a psychological perspective, we're going to start to interrupt cognitive distortions here. When we can meet our thoughts with curiosity instead of with criticism, we start to see a reality that is much more clear. People that use this and practice self compassion find themselves recovering more quickly from setbacks. They have healthier relationships and they report greater satisfaction with their lives. In short, self compassion helps us to build a mind and body that is big enough and strong enough to grow. So, this is the happiness hack for the week. It's the compassion challenge. It's a simple practice to strengthen your self compassion. So, at the end of every day, write down one moment where you were unduly hard on yourself. Now, write a response as if you're speaking to a friend. Read both of those statements aloud. Notice how your body reacts. The more that we do that, we're rewiring our brain's emotional responses. The more we practice kindness and self compassion, the easier it becomes to access it, especially in moments of challenge. Because self compassion isn't just a feel good aspect, it's a skill that transforms how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. When we deliberately choose to turn down our inner critic, to reframe our thoughts for growth, for looking for the things that we're doing well, we start to make space for clarity, connection, and joy. When you stop chasing the worth through comparison and start cultivating your own sense of worth through your own peace of mind and care, that's where happiness grows quietly, steadily, and authentically. If this resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, or better yet, share it with someone who could do with this message. And if you're ready to really dive into your own self compassion, why not book a session with me? tim-coulson.com. That's Tim-Coulson. And as always, guys, remember the day is what you make it.